Just before the Titanic sank to the bottom of the ocean, the ship sent out a distress signal containing its exact location. The coordinates sent out by the Titanic were extremely useful. The nearby ship, RMS Carpathia, quickly headed towards them and rescued all survivors of the Titanic. Although it was easy to find the lifeboats, locating the wreck was a challenging puzzle that took decades of technological advancements to solve and spurred a race among several explorers. This is the story of how the Titanic was found. Technology in 1912 was insufficient for divers to reach such depths. It would take more than 40 years and 2 world wars, which brought technological advancements like submarines and sonar for the first serious expedition to head back to the Titanic's last known location. In 1953, Riston Beasley, the founder of a salvage company from England, decided to try his hand at finding the impossible. Here are the coordinates from the distress call the Titanic made before it sank, sent out at 10:35 p.m. New York time. Beasley began by dropping dynamite over the reported location of the Titanic wreckage. These explosives would create an echo that, using sonar, could be plotted to create a bottom profile, which Beasley hoped would reveal the ship. This method was an imprecise early version of sonar mapping, and it yielded no results as Beasley found no luck. 20 more years passed before another serious attempt was made. In 1977, marine geologist Robert Ballard wanted to make history. The Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution had developed new survey equipment for mapping out the ocean floor, and Ballard was tasked with testing this state-of-the-art technology. His motivation was to use this equipment to find the Titanic. Ballard rigged a pod with sonar and cameras to detect the Titanic's wreckage. However, disaster struck when the drill pipe broke, sending thousands of feet of pipe and the expensive equipment crashing to the ocean floor, ending the search before it could even begin. Ballard returned to the institution heartbroken and embarrassed. Without the equipment he was set out to test, and without any hint of the Titanic. More years passed, and despite technological advancements making it theoretically possible to find the Titanic, the resources needed for such an expedition were another matter entirely. Each trip had the potential to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and few were willing to invest in a possibly fruitless search. That is until Jack Grimm entered the scene. Grimm, an eccentric oil tycoon from Texas, had previously financed expeditions to find Noah's Ark, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, and even to prove the Hollow Earth theory. Now, he was determined to solve the mystery of the Titanic. Despite having the money, Grimm lacked the necessary technology and expertise. He donated $300,000 to the Geological Observatory of Columbia University in New York in exchange for the equipment and crew needed for the search. He was joined by renowned scientists Dr. William Ryan and Dr. Fred Spies. An unlikely alliance formed between two scientists and a conspiracy-driven oil tycoon. Grimm believed one thing was still missing, a monkey named Titan, which he claimed was trained to point at a map and figure out where the Titanic should be located. The scientists, shocked by this spectacle, threatened to leave the expedition. Cooler heads prevailed, and Grimm was persuaded to leave Titan behind, allowing the expedition to finally begin. This expanded the search area significantly, and they now believed the Titanic had a high probability of being somewhere within a 1,500-mile rectangle. They continued marking areas of interest, totaling 14, but found nothing. Grimm was convinced that one of these areas contained the Titanic, but time ran out. Not ready to give up, Grimm prepared for another expedition with more advanced sonar. Each marked area was examined in detail, but they were all ruled out as natural features. On the final day, they tried using a digital film camera, and while reviewing the footage, they spotted a propeller-like shape. Convinced they had found the Titanic, they were forced to head home before investigating further. Meanwhile, Robert Ballard, disheartened by his failed attempt but not ready to give up, approached the US Navy. He proposed designing a new submersible to locate the Titanic, but the Navy was more interested in the submersible itself. They agreed to fund his project if he first used the equipment to investigate two lost nuclear submarines, the USS Thresher and the USS Scorpion. Ballard developed Argo, a deep-towed sled equipped with side-scanning sonar and cameras for real-time imaging of the ocean floor. During the investigation of the submarines, he noticed that the wreckages created a debris field, with heavier pieces sinking close to the wreck and lighter pieces drifting away. He theorized that by finding the Titanic's debris field, he could follow it back to the ship. In 1985, under the the guise of testing Argo, Ballard was allowed to search for the Titanic after completing his mission for the Navy. Teaming up with the French oceanographic institution Ifremer, they devised a two-phase strategy. Jean-Louis Michel of Ifremer would scout the search area using sonar mapping, and Ballard would focus on the most interesting spots. Using a more advanced sonar, Michel found nothing, and with only 12 days left, Ballard began his search. He focused on finding the debris field rather than the ship itself. Utilizing the camera feedback from Argo, his team watched the video feed around the clock. Days passed with no results, but then, during the night watch, the crew noticed man-made debris on the screen. Ballard quickly joined them, and moments later, they spotted a larger shape, a boiler from the Titanic. Celebrations broke out, but soon, the crew honored the one. 500+ people who perished in the tragedy with a moment of silence. The team discovered the stern section, and about 800 yards from it, the bow with the iconic railing intact. The Titanic was finally found, just 3,300 feet away from where Michel had searched. The discovery led to interest in recovering artifacts, and in 1996, an expedition was prepared to recover a large section of the ship's hull. The site was circled by 3 expedition ships and 2 large cruise ships filled with thousands of guests, including Titanic survivors and celebrities. Using submersibles, they attached special bags to the hull piece and began to raise it from the ocean floor. Cheers erupted, but then things started to go wrong.